reconsider your past deeds.
Stop asking questions. You had your chance.
Let the games begin!
Greetings, visionaries. Welcome to Velen's Chosen, a podcast geared to buff the Hearthstone game of those of you that want to improve. We exist to help you stay competitive on the ladder, in Standard, and sometimes in Wild, and we do that without helping you break your bank or your card pool collection. Today, I am your host, NotRobMay, and joining me, we have our native Canadian, Evemartyn.
That could be a little bit misleading, because here we call native people native, and I am not native. So
Good distinction.
I'm Canadian, however. So go with that.
All right. And then we have our southern resident, hailing all the way down in the nether regions of the United States, Andrew Brown.
And I'm actually 132nd Algonquin Indian, so I count as 132nd native. So, but that's like nothing.
Oh, you guys are
You
killing
even
me on these
calculate
technicalities today.
Yeah, that really doesn't count. But
All right,
good to be.
All right. Let's just introduce the real guest to the show. We have Mr. Three or more podcasts that I don't know of. I don't know yet. We have the Instance podcast for the World of Warcraft. We have the Stormcast show and for Heroes of the Storm, and the one and only Angry Chicken podcast. We have Willie Dills Gregory.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Good to be here.
Yeah.
Am I nether regions too? Is that Texas?
Yeah. I mean,
you are, man. You're more nether than I am.
You're actually
I'm
further
in Austin,
south than
Texas.
Andrew.
I guess nether regions. Yeah, the hanging sack of America.
Oh, God.
You're about to start with the first summer in Texas. Nothing can prepare you for that. So,
Oh no, I know what can prepare me, and that's about 12 or so summers that I spent here when I was a kid. So I'm good
did
to
you?
go.
Okay.
I got it under control.
Got him.
Stay inside between 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. every single day.
As long as you got access to a pool, you're not miserable. But that's about it.
Mm-hmm. Air conditioned everywhere. Yeah, all of that stuff. Don't go outside, stay in and stream. That's basically my plan.
There it is.
Drink lots of water and stay from going outside. Perfect.
We are super excited to have
I'm excited to be here. There's a lot to talk about in Hearthstone these days.
Oh, man.
Not like technically news because we know everything, but cards coming out every single day. It's awesome.
I know, right? I can
That's
hardly
to hear.
stay away from these show notes like for 4 hours. It's just like, oh, I have to put in another card. Okay.
Yeah.
It's funny,
I feel
we
like I'm
talked this
constantly
week.
controlling-
We
Go
talked this week earlier, like offline, just about how we don't know all the cards, so there's very limited information that we have, and yet at the same point, everyone's just talking about the implications. And so all of our opinions on these cards could be completely wrong, and yet at the same time, it's all we want to talk about right now. It's just what we do know.
Well,
Which could
it's
be nothing.
funny because we talk about this on the Angry Chicken, and that we would like to see the cards all at once, right? However, it's actually pretty good for content creators to have this slow drip. It's just not great for people who really like the theory craft with the new cards
Right.
and, fake deck build in their minds before the actual expansion hits. I want to see all the cards, and then I want to start figuring
Sure.
out stuff and kind of theory crafting. But when you're doing a show every single week, it is nice to have something to talk about,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We do have to say thank you for that. Like, what is it? 15 cards a week we've been getting around there. I mean, that's
Yeah, we
a
thought the drip
decent
feed
amount
was
to
slow
go
right
over.
away, and it was like 10 cards first week, and then it's been 15 the last two. So,
Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah, they're ramping up.
We're getting
Not to mention
Which gives me hope, by the way, that we're going to get the expansion sooner rather than later, because, the whole late April / early May release date is not fun to think about. And also, I'm going to be playing in the DreamHack tournament,
What?
which happens
dang.
on, I believe, May 8th. And if early May
my
is the
gosh.
thing, and the actual expansion
That
hits
could
on,
be real
say,
bad.
May 3rd, then suddenly everything goes crazy, and I don't even know. It's going to be the Wild West at that tournament. We
Dang.
shall see.
So DreamHack has to be standard.
I don't know, but I would assume that they would say standard. Right now, there's nothing in the rules about whether standard or wild,
Gotcha.
because again, we don't know the release date. All
Sure.
I know is it's last hero standing, with a ban. That's all I know at this point.
Well, last year was
We'll
standing
find out when
though.
it gets closer.
That's a whole nother ball
That's
game.
going to
for...
separate the men from the boys. I mean,
Yeah.
if you have to make a deck in a couple days and then go play it in a tournament,
That's just ridiculous.
I'm trying to figure out if that's an advantage for me or a disadvantage as someone who's not, a pro player, because there are going to be a ton of pros there.
Yeah, but you have a couple days to make a
feel
bunch
like
of
it's a
silly
disadvantage.
decks.
I think so. I think it could be a huge advantage.
Well, we shall see. I mean, everyone's going to be trying out whatever the hell, right? So
Yeah.
I don't know yet. It could kind of set everyone on equal footing, but also when I can just look up what Tice plays, that might be better for me. When all the decks are super refined and all I have to worry about is piloting them and not creating them. That I don't know. We'll see.
If they're smart, they keep them close to their chest and don't share them with anybody till after the tournament.
Exactly. Yeah, the first few weeks of an expansion, I think a lot of people do that. You have to watch their stream, and then they're probably not even playing like the stuff that they've all come up with off stream together.
Their best work.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move forward a little bit with the show here. We were gonna do what we have been doing, where we kind of just talk about what we've been playing. But today, brand new season. It's okay. We're probably just gonna dink around with some really stupid decks. Well, actually, I'm gonna be playing what Andrew's gonna be covering, a discount deck. But we gotta have a little Dilterview where we have an interview with Dills. And
That's the best I could come up with. I don't know.
So, Andrew, why don't you take it away?
Dills, we just first for anybody who hasn't heard of the show and stuff.
Oh, he's
Oh,
robot.
you're robot, not me,
Yeah.
Andrew. Hang on.
Yep.
Sorry, that just got really. Your audio just got really weird.
I'll bet you the fix is plug back in your microphone. Watch.
The best IT advice: turn it off and on again.
Are we good now?
Yeah, we good.
Yes,
There we go. Okay.
All right, I'll just
Been
cut
doing this
there.
for a while, guys.
That's right.
it's hilarious.
So, Dills, for anyone who's unaware of who you are and stuff, can you just quickly introduce yourself? Tell us how you got into podcasting, Blizzard games, all that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I started. So I grew up being nerdy and things, but not really had a lot of nerdy fun friends to hang out with, which was a little unfortunate. So, I was in punk bands and stuff, and everyone around me they didn't really know the extent of my private nerdiness, I guess you could say. So, I did things like play Dungeons and Dragons and all that kind of stuff with the few friends I did have who did that. But it wasn't until podcasting became a thing where I could find all of these fun nerd people that I have found since then, because I've discovered the Instance. Started listening to the Instance and just went and joined the guild. Ended up kind of making friends with some of the people who had started the guild, like Scott and Veronica and Randy and all that. And at some point, Randy got hired by Blizzard, and I was doing the AIE podcast. And so Scott asked me to become the new co-host on the Instance with the Terpsters. So that's kind of how I got into like the podcasting world, as far as people knowing who the hell I was. And then after that, it was just starting other podcasts when new games came out. So of course, when Hearthstone was announced, I was talking about it all the time on the internet, and I was really, really excited for Hearthstone. And Garrett, who was a fan of the Instance and had actually helped me and Scott with the Instance Tour Edition, which was about the pretty bad Star Wars MMO.
Oh.
He reached out to me and he said he was interested in doing a show. So we got together and we started talking, and Jocelyn had also reached out to him as well. So the three of us just kind of came together. So that's basically how anybody would have heard of me, is just through the Instance and the Angry Chicken. And more recently, it's become more of a full-time gig with Stormcast and just some of the streaming and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it was kind of I backed in a little bit, but I have a broadcasting degree. I always wanted to do podcasting and radio.
Yeah.
And if you weren't talking with three people on a podcast, I don't know how many listeners we got who are podcasters and stuff like that, but what's it been like as you've transitioned from it being kind of a hobby to more of a career for you? How's that been so far?
Difficult.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. So the scary part is I always had a full-time job, and when I decided I could still have that same full-time job and be living in San Francisco and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
But I decided to kind of throw caution to the wind, move to Austin, Texas, where rent is cheaper. I'm not saying rent is cheap here, but cheaper than San Francisco.
Yeah.
And so it gives me the opportunity to use the income that I have from podcasting and streaming to potentially have that be main source of income. And then once I got here, I still had my part-time job, but I've been let go from that since then because they didn't really like me working from here. They wanted someone in-house. So yeah,
they were jealous.
That part didn't quite work out the way I expected, but we're pushing through, and we're just gonna see what happens on the other end of this whole thing. It's an adventure at this point.
That's awesome, man.
That's super
Wow.
cool.
Oh, cool.
So Dills, I always
talk on this.
Oh, sorry, Andrew. I'll ask a question like random off the cuff. But
Please.
I like to know what people like as far as like their favorite cards or maybe their favorite card back within the Hearthstone scene. So if you could think of like any of your top couple cards and maybe your favorite card back that you like piloting on the ladder.
Ooh, wow.
That's like super impromptu.
Yeah, no, my favorite card back I think currently is probably the Heroes of the Storm card back.
Yeah.
I mean, that thing is badass. Although the Overwatch one is kind of caught my eye. But the one that I use still is just card back because very few people have it.
Oh.
Yeah, so you feel cool, right? That's the card back
Jealousy-inducing, yes.
Yeah, which I have to thank somebody who's a podcast listener and stream watcher helped me out with that one. So, but yeah, outside of that, I mean, probably still, I guess the Knife Juggler, just because it's the Juggalo, and I don't know, it's become
classic.
It's become like stable for me. But I will say this: one of my favorite cards recently has to be Elise Starseeker, because once I made that Explorers Assemble deck, which we've talked about on the show a bunch.
Is that Warlock deck, right?
Which was essentially a Warlock deck, Reno and Elise and Murgle 10 and all of the Explorers. And that deck was so fun to play and so fun to pilot. And one of the funnest things about it was, of course, turning into legendaries. So
yeah,
that card's awesome.
So
I want to see
cool.
more stuff like that.
All right, well,
That's cool.
I think that's quite enough. Let's get into the discount deck of the week, and I'm interested to see what everybody's opinions are. So let's play the bumper.
What a contraption!
Isn't she scrumptious? She's my revolutionary, non-preliminary mechanical wonder.
Now, for those of you listening, Dills and the people in our Skype call can't hear it, but it is a Willy Wonka soundbite, in case you're wondering. So, Andrew, you, again, are the champion for our deck this week. I have played a lot of this. Let's jump into it.
That's true. Well, happy Easter, late, practically a week late, probably a week late, listening to this. But we thought we'd talk about eggs again. This time with Druid. We've gone over Egg Paladin in the past, but we're talking some Druid. So the idea for this deck is you want to get a lot of cheap minions on board, some tokens, and just bum rush your opponent. So this deck plays similarly to Zoo. It actually like outvalues Zoo quite a bit, which kind of surprised me. But the idea is to get a lot of stuff on board, your Dragon Eggs, your Haunted Creepers, your Nerubian Eggs, and buff them with stuff like Power of the Wild, Mark of the Wild, and then just use Savage Roar at some point to just destroy face. So I played this on stream a little bit beforehand, and I went 7-2, which is not shabby.
What rank were you around?
I started at 18. They were the first games I played out of the end of the season. So I always hate playing on day one of a season because it feels like everybody's legendary that I'm playing against. But I guess that wasn't the case today. So it was fun, and it's not a bad deck to, if you played Zoo before, it's kind of easy. You just want to be really careful about how you're playing your Power of the Wilds because, man, those things if you play those with your eggs in combo, you can do some dirty damage real fast with those. And
So
what was your?
Oh, you were gonna ask me what I was gonna do with this?
Yeah. Played it too.
Yeah. The more I played with it, the more I found that this is just a deck that nobody's realistically playing right now. And I thought everybody would be playing this deck because it's it's egg, it's freaking Easter. I mean, happy Easter, Savage Roar, poof. Like that's what I thought, right?
Done.
So but there was so many like Egg Paladins or other it was Omeletidin or whatever that was, that list that kind of got thrown around.
Yeah.
I ran into those a little bit, and then Lightning Ruler, one of our consistent followers, I guess you could Discord, said that he was block egg deck. So there's a lot of that. But I mean, it's so fast, and like you said, sometimes you can get away with the game faster than they can, and it's nuts. I had a pretty good win rate with it. I think I went 6-2 or something like that, or maybe it was 8. But again, it was on the lower ranks. It was like 14-11, I think, is what I was.
Yeah. And the incoming combo nerf, which we don't know how that's going to go down, this is one that's pretty. I mean, you still run 1 Force of Nature and 2 Savage Roar, but this is pretty viable, hopefully, on the other side of all of this. So this is something that could continue on.
So, Dills, have you any experience with this deck before? Played this?
I used to run the Jackie Chan version that had the what is the 1/4 that draws you 3 cards at the end of the turn?
Jeeves.
The mech, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, I was running double Jeeves and stuff like that.
Yeah, I've seen that.
I played around with that deck for a while when he'd gotten to rank 1 with it.
Oh.
So a lot of people got really excited about that deck for a while because anytime anybody gets to rank 1 legend with a deck, it suddenly becomes the prevalent deck on the ladder. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that was a deck that I was messing with for a while. I'm not familiar with this exact version of it. This version is running things like Dr. Boom and stuff that deck wasn't. I think it actually topped out his version of deck. I think Jeeves was the most expensive card in the deck.
I did take a look at that.
It was very much about early board control, and then at a certain point, just like turning the switch and going face.
Yep.
But this deck looks similar in a lot of respects. It's got a lot of the same kind of elements to it, and I like the build of this. One thing that's really fun about this version is the Raven Idols. That seems cool.
Oh yeah.
I've gotten so many lethals off that, believe it or not. Like you just grab I think like if you're just like 2 damage off lethal, Raven Idol Moonfire, little stuff like that.
Sure, and also the fact is it's gonna pretty often give you Savage Roar.
Yeah.
If you don't already have Savage Roar in your, you know what I mean? Because if you think about it, there's not that many Druid spells, and you're getting 3 of them.
It's like 1 in 14 or something like that.
Yeah, but with 3 options, right? So
it's even higher.
It's just pretty often you're going to get that card, or Force of Nature, or something that does direct damage. Swipe, yeah. There's lots of things that just do damage. So that card seems pretty fun to me in this deck, and it's a card. I played that Miracle Druid for a while, and the problem with that deck was that you use so much of your burn to control the game early, or else you would lose.
Yeah.
Then you'd finally get to Mal'Ganis being on the board, and you'd be like, I don't have enough spells to kill him. I'm just out of damage. So a deck like this is going to do a lot better, I think, and be more consistent.
All right, so
the biggest thing to probably be aware of is the card draw and stuff like that too, because even this build right here, other than the Raven Idols, all you got is 1 Cult Master, so you better get some good value out of that one. I did have another build that I tried that ran 2 Masters and 2 Soul of the Forest, which if you got a full board, that card is just crazy. I even pulled it off a Raven Idol with this build and ended up getting enough value out of it. So just finding ways to prolong your minions and make them as chunky as possible, if that's an appropriate term for Hearthstone, is going to help you go far.
Chunky?
Sticky, that's better. Yeah,
I'm guessing that is the big weakness of this deck, right? Is running out of steam.
Yeah,
absolutely. And
you get like a really, really quick start, and then they AoE your board down somehow, and then suddenly you have 1 card a turn. And,
it really is. Yeah. But again, that's the style of aggro, right? In a nutshell, the style of aggro, the reason that Zoo is able to continually put pressure is because they actually have their hero power that is anti-pressure in that way. Like they could just continually draw more cards and fuel. But let's transition this segment into substitution. What to do if you're missing X and Y. So obviously Dr. Boom is kind of your staple at this point in the season. We've been talking over and over and over again. Always want this card. Echoing Ooze, again, this is from Nax, but if you don't have it, it's okay. Same with Force of Nature. But Andrew has a few things in our show notes here. But I'm going to have Eve try to cover what she might think. A lot of times Eve finds herself like, I'm missing this card, so what do I do, guys?
I kind of feel like all of our listeners at this point have Boom.
Yeah.
I would really like to do a survey. Like, how long have you played and you still don't have Boom?
But don't get it at this point if you don't have it.
Yeah,
no.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
And unless you feel like you're going to be sticking to Wild, that's going to be your wheelhouse, then you're still going to need Boom. But if you're going to be sticking to Standard a lot, then yeah, we're no longer going to tell you to craft Boom.
I actually was going to say, because we're going to ask about my EU account earlier, but we never got there. But that was the one card I've crafted on my EU account. I've pretty much been just sitting on all my dust. But I crafted Boom. I crafted Boom a long time ago. It was like, any deck I'm going to play, this card will always make better, right? And on that count, I basically play like Zoo, Hunter, double combo, Druid, that kind of stuff. So it's always going to be useful. I don't know what's going to happen now with Standard on that account. I probably just play Arena. Just who cares?
Just play Arena.
But
Just slowly get all the cards through.
that's kind of what I'm doing now at this point. But yeah.
So I think we've covered most of the things, but like, what are some other cards that kind of fit with this archetype if you're missing cards still? The first thing you...
I mean, I think can't really go wrong with just some of the good stuff for now. So you could probably get away with just like piloted shredders. Obviously, those are going away with Standard. But I do think Jeeves is a card. Like, let's say you don't have a Boom. One Jeeves with that one Cult Master could be enough to refill your hand enough times.
Yeah.
If you refill your hand one time, I think it's pretty good with a deck like this.
Right.
Outside of that, I think I would do things like maybe play Double Force or something if I don't have if I have that option. Because even though I get why you only really need the one Force here, because you have such a sticky board presence in most cases, it's still gonna be sometimes a way to clear the board, to keep your board alive, or to just push 6 extra damage to face,
Right.
So it's got such flexibility that I never see a problem with running 2 of it.
Right. The flip side, I would even
I think
say...
it's like the chopping block as far as a card to be changed. It's way good, even when you don't use it in concert with Savage Roar.
Right. And even on the flip side of that, like if you're missing that Roar, and maybe you just cut the Cultist and the Roar, and you just throw in 2 Jeeves, and you say, okay, well, I just want the card draw, let's just do it. Because then you can just cycle that into a Raven Idol next turn, and maybe you have a swipe already that you drew, plus a Raven Idol swipe, and that's 8 days. So.
The other thing that's not in this deck is Wrath. I think you could totally Wrath in here.
Sure.
It's
more
card
board
draw
control.
cycle, and it helps keep your guys alive. So
I did get one off of Raven Idol once, and it was clutch. So
So Eve,
well, see, there you go. Raven Idol just fixes all of this, right?
It really does.
Yeah.
Well, I just Raven Idol and get it.
It's Sylvanas off Raven Idol. Duh.
So Eve, did you get a chance to pilot this deck at all?
No, I was trying to get all my quests done in Brawl. Which, that was kind of an interesting experience this week, actually. There are a couple people who figured out a really scary Hunter version.
Oh my gosh.
Did you guys play Brawl at all? It's like
Speaking
they had barely any cards, just secrets.
Yeah.
And when you got
then
out your
big
huge
minions.
8/8 minion, they made you attack yourself in the face with it.
Oh, that sounds
That is
awful.
the worst way to lose.
All right. Well, speaking of funny
I was like,
news,
okay, sorry. Can I just finish this one crazy game story?
do it. Let's do
The
it.
second hunter I played against, I was like, okay, I'm on to you. I know how your deck works, so I'm not going to kill myself in the face. So I fill my board with minions and don't attack until I have like a board full of minions. And the little reticule goes, attack yourself in the face. Out of like a board full of minions, my giants still
Sometimes never
smack my
lucky.
team.
Yeah. Sometimes never.
So that's what I was doing. That's
Yep.
how I was getting all my done.
All right. Well, let's talk some more about Brawl, but first, talk some news. So we have a new MMO version of Hearthstone, right, guys?
Crazy.
Finally.
Have you heard of this
Finally.
before? Everyone's
Since the
been
beginning.
asking.
Oh, I can't wait. I don't know what else to say. It's just there's a trailer and it's April 1st, so it's got to be real, right?
Of course.
All right.
I love it at the end of the show where the a sign falls down and it just says World of Warcraft.
I liked the
Whoops.
little like sound bites and stuff that they were talking about when they were doing the show. It's like I have no time for games, or when Grom like comes in, like goes in and attacks, and he like actually uses the charge sound file from WoW. I was like,
You
oh,
mean
that's
Garrosh?
great. Yeah, Garrosh. Sorry. Or no, and it's not
Was it?
Garrosh. It's Gromash. Somebody plays Garrosh or Gromash on the board, and then like I couldn't wait no longer, and then it cuts to WoW, and then he like does the charge.
Oh,
soundbite.
okay, I
It's
see.
really
Yeah, that was fun. Blizzard always does fun things for April Fool's Day.
yeah.
Their WoW patch notes pretty epic. If anybody plays WoW, just go read those. There's
They were good.
Some awesome
like an novel.
thing about the dance studio. They're like, well, we put a dance studio link or whatever on top of every mailbox for this feature that's been in the game for the last 10 years and no one's been using it.
Bank
Yeah,
alts
they bring
rejoice.
back all the good stuff. It's awesome.
I've always thought it's the best day in the office when you realize a month before, hey, April, we need to just sit down for 8 hours and talk about what are we going to do and execute on that. Because that must have taken time. Whatever.
I feel like that would be Blizzard should hire me for one day a year, and that's just to write these jokes because I think I got some good ones. Man. That's right in my wheelhouse, you know.
That's good.
Oh man. So for those of you listening on the audio portion, this is the portion where you actually want to come and tune in the live show because we're actually going to show you what the Yogg Saron card back looks like on the stream. So let's pull that up here. And it's not working. Perfect. All right, hang on. Let me pull it up while you. What do you guys think of this card back while I'm pulling it back up?
It's cool. I kind of don't like it as much as the pre-order card back, but that makes me feel good because if I'm going to spend money, I want the ultimate card back. So
yeah, exactly.
But still nice.
I mean, the card back is actually like secondary in my mind because like last month they had Hogger introduce his own card back, and then this month they had the haunted or the corrupted Hogger introduce the new one. You know what I mean?
I completely missed that. I'm gonna have to check
So
that out.
it's kind of neat because it's like Hogger might have been corrupted by specifically Yogg Saron because this is Yogg's card back, and so tentacles kind of come out and like shows you. Yeah, I can't get the card back to work. Sorry, chat. We'll move forward. Hopefully the cards are working.
I think you get it by now, right?
Yeah, I should hope
The
so.
eyeball coming at him.
Yeah.
Tentacles.
All
We're
right.
used to tentacles by now.
You guys ready
Lots
to
of
do the
tentacles.
rapid fire card reviews?
Get
This
'em.
is gonna be nuts. Okay, there's 15 or not 15. There's 18 new cards. It looks like. So let's get the soundbite rolling. Let's do it.
Has arrived.
All right, let's have Dills kick off the first card for us.
Infest?
Yep.
Talking Infest. All right, Infest. It's a rare card. It's 2 mana. It's a spell. It gives your minions Death Rattle. Add a random beast to your hand. So, build spiders. That's basically what this is.
I've heard a lot of talk about combining it with
With Unleash.
yes,
Yeah.
that's exactly what it was. Yeah, Unleash.
Which is we talked about this on the Angry Chicken a little bit. It is cool because think of Ball of Spiders was put 3 web spinners on the board with charge.
That's
That would
pretty
actually
good.
be a pretty good card, right?
Yeah.
3 damage, and you create the web spinners. This kind of does it, but it takes up two
cards.
slots in your deck to make
Yeah.
this happen. But it's 6 mana, right? And you might get 5 charging web spinners essentially. So
Sure.
there's possibilities here. I think it's better to run this with play simply Ball of Spiders. Does that make it a good card? I don't know.
Yeah.
What's cool is
Well,
that,
and
since
also
the
the
starting
spiders are-
buzzard nerf, we haven't really had a draw mechanic. The web spinner's kind of been that, well, at least I'm getting some random beast out of it. Now with this, you could have unlimited value out of that. And granted, you don't know if the beasts are going to be good, but if you can proc it on 2 or 3 minions, you're probably going to get something that's playable at least, if not a ridiculous hand similar to an Elise Starseeker, you know?
Eve.
We know what beasts we're losing to Wild.
We're losing
Well,
Gazrilla.
you lose haunted creepers, you lose web spinners, you lose. There's some decent beasts away, but you're still left with Savannah Highmanes. You're still left with plenty of good stuff.
Yeah.
King Crush.
King Crush you can get.
Yeah. The problem here though is this card isn't cheating, and this is one of the things that we're so used to in Hearthstone is that a card has to cheat somehow to really be good. And this card, puts them in your hand, but then you still pay the mana cost for the speed, so you don't necessarily get much of an advantage outside of restocking.
Right.
And you might restock with really bad stuff.
This is kind of like the grinder mage duplicate hunters. Kind of like the other way you get it. With duplicate, you know what you're getting. With this card, it's like hit the pinata and see what comes out.
Sure.
And we just gonna tell you it's gonna be a beast, and that's it. So your Houndmasters are gonna work, but sorry, we can't tell you much more.
But with Hunter, there's just some kind of, mechanics that can go along with it with Kill Command and whatever else we're going to get from this set.
I love this card for Wild,
synergy.
and I love this card for Arena. I will say that.
Yeah, in Arena, if you can get even just 2 minions to have this death rattle, it's probably going to be fine.
Sure.
And I think in Wild you're going to see some really, really crazy hunters, but I think even in Standard, is still a thing. So you can make a really beast-heavy deck and just run a very tempo-oriented beast deck that then has the card to somewhat fill back up.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and the other way that you could think about this card through Wild Lens is they're not losing Feign Death. So you can have some really fun Feign Death stuff if you got this on a high main. That would be nuts.
Yikes.
That's scary business. All right, who's got our next card? You can go ahead and start. I'll pull it up on the screen.
Ragnaros the Light Lord. Paladin legendary, 8 mana for an 8/8. At the end of your turn, restore 8 health to a damaged friendly character. So like Lightwell.
Except it can
But with
smack
an
you
8/8
for
body.
8. Yes.
Which
and
is
he can
slightly more
attack,
effective.
which is unlike Corrupted Ragnaros. Regular Ragnaros.
Corrupted, right?
There was, let's say, just a little bit of outrage
For the lore
when this
nerds.
card first came out from the population of lore people who were like, Ragnaros, Light Lord, doesn't make sense. And Denbrode is like, Hearthstone, have you been playing this game? It's crazy. It
Yeah.
does things with cards.
We're inventing stuff, guys. That's basically what he said. We're just making this up
Yeah.
because it's fun.
Don't sit on my
Which that would've been
entrepreneurship. Don't do it.
That would have been the April Fool's joke that, hey, we're actually going to make Ragnaros a Light Lord in WoW.
Yeah,
There
they
we
should have
go.
saved this for
Like,
April Fools and been like, April Fools, it's a real card.
This is a precursor. Yeah. Oh, but it's a cool card. I mean, we keep seeing more and more heal function in this set for Paladin specifically. So I don't know if fatigue is going to be a thing, but even without that, this card is going to be pretty good just on its own in any kind of, control or mid-range
I find
Pally
the card
deck.
really interesting. Especially since, like, we're kind of under the assumption that BGH is getting some kind of slap on the wrist this expansion, right?
Stop that.
He's gonna tell him to
no.
stap, but I don't know what venue that's gonna look like. And a cost hit? Is this a targeting hit? Is this, what are we looking at here? We don't know. So that being said, I think that like cards like Eldor Peacekeeper, if they don't get touched, and Eadric the Pure could be just gross. And then like by that point in the game, if you can kind of neuter the board, you can kind of heal back up with this, and you don't necessarily need a lay on hands in a control paladin, at least no more than a second one, because you're trying to get them to fatigue, similar to like control warrior, mage or something like that. You don't want to keep digging into a fatigue if you're trying to win the mirror matchup. So this can really help you do that without drawing a whole bunch. So I think that the effect is great. A good card. Will it see play? Maybe. Like, kind of like, let's review every card. Is this a good card? Maybe. It's cool. Probably. Is it for paladins?
Well, when
Is
I
it healing?
Cards, I kind of try and see what kind of deck that the creators are envisioning you're going to build out of it. Like how they're seeing Hunter changing by all the cards that they're giving them and changing, and what vision, what kind of deck they see this in is what I'm trying to figure out. So it's interesting.
Well, if you think about it too, it's an 8/8. It can attack, right? So you can attack something, and at the end of your turn, heal itself up. That's a very real possibility. Right?
Yep.
And then be at full health again the next turn, and if it can't be dealt with, it can do the same thing again the very next turn. Like you said, Rob, the problem here is that if Big Gamer is in form, then this card will never be good. But if Big Game Hunter gets some sort of change where it's not a very easy include in a ton of decks, this card could be amazing.
Sure.
I do like the fact that it does its effect at the end of your turn.
Yeah.
Yeah, it gets the
So
effect
you
of
get
what-
that.
I get something.
So 8/8 heal for 8. It's like 8 cost massive heal bot,
Cool.
and even like the worst
Also,
situation.
On the off chance you're playing Paladin in Arena and you actually get a legendary, this is going to be one of the more common ones that you'll see.
That's a good one.
This is legit in Arena.
Yeah. This would be awesome.
Oh my word! As if Paladins needed any more help.
This is better than current Ragnaros. And
I was just wondering
think.
the same thing.
For Arena?
I think if I
Yeah,
have my
because you can attack.
choice,
For Arena?
I will still choose other Ragnaros. I will still choose classic Ragnaros.
Yeah.
If you 8 damage immediately to something on the board, man, that's probably
Yeah,
gonna
that
be more
removal
valuable.
effect.
Even in arena?
Yeah, and
Rag is king. Yeah.
Because a lot of times you'll spend all your mana on whatever your biggest, minion is on a Boulder Fist Ogre, or Pit Fighter, or something like that. To be able to take that out immediately and still have an 8/8 on the board, that's good.
All right.
Yeah,
But could also
people
ignore it
don't
and
have
go
any
face.
hunters.
I
They
can
just
understand
don't.
And that's
that.
fine. Even if it goes face, as long as they can't buff it somehow, which maybe they can, you still got a chance next turn to deal with it. And now it's their problem, not yours.
Well, they're probably going to have to run 2 minions into it either way.
Right.
Because, like I
That's
said, Big
good.
Game Hunter it's an epic. It doesn't exist in Arena in the same way. Whereas in Constructed, you can just put one Big Game Hunter into every single deck and it's fine. In Arena, you never play around BG. That's why it's such a good pick when you get BG.
Yeah.
Because no one plays around it and you murder something massive
Mm.
and you just win.
Good.
All right, so last piece of analysis before we move on to Andrew pulling up another card. Because this is legendary, we're going to start doing this from the rest of the cards. Legendaries and epics. Is it worth your dust to craft? What do you guys think?
Not at the moment.
I kind of think we have to wait on that, really,
Yeah.
because that's such a big call, and I don't quite know yet. I would say that, like, right now, and if you really, you want Tyrion. You don't want this.
Exactly,
If there's one Paladin legendary you want, it's going to be Tyrion.
Tyrion's better than this.
The other thing that we want to take this time to consider is we're going to disclaimer. If we say this is probably a good idea to craft, again, it's going to be
Just
at
wait.
best like a 50-50. You should go craft this.
Just wait. You
I'm
just don't
telling
want
everybody,
people
don't
screaming
do
at you.
anything.
Yeah.
Don't do anything until the new cards are all released, and then
Except
decide. So
the
hoard
one
the
thing-
dust for now.
The one thing you can do is save your dust and save your gold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing you can do is we'll probably put these cards on more of a label of don't like necessarily craft, but put this on your watch list. Like, see how this card plays out. Pay attention to this card, even if you don't get it. See if this is worth it. All right, so let's go with the next card, Andrew.
So we've got a neutral common minion, 5 mana. It's a 4/4 body, and the battle cry reads for each enemy minion, health to your hero. So if you've looked at this at all, you've thought anti-heal bot, and you probably not that. I want to take this conversation in almost a different direction, though, because with this card, with some of the other cards we've seen in the set, it seems to me making minions, they're making spells that do similar things, but are a little bit more finicky and not as reliable. I mean, obviously, getting you 8 health immediately, you'd pick that over Cult Apothecary every time.
It's almost like they're
but it
giving
seems
it
like they're going in a
conditions.
direction where you can't count on those immediate effects quite as much. It's going to be a little bit more temperamental.
Yeah. I'd agree with that.
Do you guys
I
think
agree.
that that's good for the game or bad for the game?
They're ranging in our level of GVG and Nax because Nax and GVG were objectively too powerful. I think you can just look at them and say, yeah, this is power creep essentially.
Right.
And what they're doing is they're kind of anti-power creeping this set as they take out those 2 really OP sets, and we're left with the Grand Tournament, which was just a dud because of the fact that GVG and Nax were so damn
Yeah.
good. The ways are kind of putting those back, so those cards go away, and now you have to look at a card like this, which is just worse than Healbot, like you said, and say, well, without Healbot, my only chance to really heal for a bunch of health. However, it's still, I don't think, the card that fixes the problem when you're getting smashed in the face by a bunch of little dudes.
Mort.
You still don't kill the dudes. You just heal them and they keep hitting your face.
Yeah,
So
and it's not necessarily
It kind
an
of-
auto-include control v control decks either, because control decks are all about card value.
have one big dude on the
Sure.
board. Yeah.
Kind of reminds me of in World of Warcraft when they had to descale all the numbers. They got to the point where everybody's health and everyone's power was too high,
Yeah.
and they had to lower everybody's health and all the damage down to like another base amount and start going up from there again. And you realize why it has to happen, but you remember how it was. You remember how it felt to be putting those big numbers up on the board and
Yeah, 100k damage felt good, right?
And
I
so
mean,
when you remember being able to use Healbot, going, okay, now this is my only option, it just doesn't feel good, even though you understand why it had to happen.
You want this to not only restore health, but even more importantly, almost a taunt with high health. Like, I'm thinking if this was a 2/6 with taunt and it did that battle cry, that should be a pretty good card, because
That card
not
would be
only
broken good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it'd be really good. So I don't know.
I think
it's
The
fine.
problem here is that I don't think you. So when we were talking about this on the Your Chicken, I basically just flat out said this card is crap, right? And then Jocelyn and Garrett both went into these kind of devil's advocate
Yeah.
stances where they're like, well,
You
but
have
what
to.
about this and this? And every single time I said the same thing, where I was like, against aggro, you're not clearing the board, you're just playing a 4/4
Yeah, exactly.
and healing. And then they just keep hitting your face. And against control, you're probably healing for 2 or 4 at the most, because that's not winning you either matchup, right?
Yeah.
So what matchup is this card going to be good in, and is it worth a deck slot in any of those? I don't think so. I just don't
Probably
see
not.
that being the case.
Yeah, like
And
on
people were
turn
saying
5,
things like, "Oh, but you could consecrate after you play this." I'm like, "Yeah, on turn 9 you can do
yeah,
that." But
yeah, against the aggro turn, you should have won by
I
then.
won. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Cult
I think it's just a
Apothecary is
bad
not
card.
like absolute garbage. We will not say that, because this card has got a very specific design. However, it is a great tool to kind of potentially work with. And again, this isn't like a Bran gasm, I guess you could say, where you're like, play Bran in this on turn 8 and then heal for a ton. It's like, well, realistically, you play this on turn 8 with Bran and you're going to heal for a heal bot. So
We're gonna keep our eye on it, because it's a tool that could be useful, but right now it's like comparing a real size hammer to like a little kitty hammer. Like, yeah, you could do the same job with it, but you really don't want to, you know?
yeah, on turn 5, you want to play either a heal and a minion, and not in the same card. You want to play like a minion that heals you, like Earthen Ring Farseer, and then maybe like a Frostbolt, or a 2-mana spell, or a 1-mana spell to remove. So Earthen Ring Farseer is almost strictly better than this card in every way.
Well, the reason why Healbot was good is because you could use it in specific matchups, like against Freeze Mage after they Alex Strauza you down. It's like, well, no matter what the condition of the board is, I know I'm getting 8 health here.
Right.
That's
And
true, too.
that's, so you didn't have to, find a way to make this card heal you for a bunch and then clear the. It's just too many. It's asking too much of the situation.
I agree. All right, Eve, you got the next one. Or, sorry, Dills got the next one.
This is Ukla, Tyrant of the Veil, which is a neutral legendary 6-mana beast, 5/5 battle cry. Add 2 bananas to your hand.
Ooh, bananas.
And reverse Mukla. All right.
I like
So
that we did bananas.
The real question is, Dills, what else is in the Mukla deck? That's what I want to know.
I don't know, because I was thinking about this because I talked on the show like, oh, I'll make a Mukla deck. Just for fun. I think do stuff like you play Clockwork Giants, but those are going away. All right, so this is a wild card at best.
Dang it.
Yeah.
But
Or you could just make a monkey
get
deck.
out of best.
Maybe Beast Druid?
Maybe, but even then it's bad. If I'm paying 6 for 5/5, it's going to Taurus on, right?
Yeah. I think you can play this in Warrior and make a full-on monkey deck. At least Starseeker, double Fierce Monkey, double Muklas. Call it a day.
Wait. Okay, it played Thorson on turn 6, and then played Mukla on turn 7, and Hero Power.
It would be a
because
5 mana cost, yeah.
Because it's 5, and then you get the bananas for free.
Then you get
next.
free bananas.
Now we're talking.
If your Thorson lived, which is very doubtful.
That's the key.
It's probably dead.
Not only is that scenario bananas, but so is this card.
Yeah, exactly. Here's the issue. I see people saying, we got someone in chat saying it right now. Maybe you play this in Tempo Mage
too slow.
because you get these bananas that you can use with your Flame Wakers, right? But a 6-mana 5/5 is anti-tempo. So you anti-tempo yourself before you then re-tempo yourself. Like that's not how that
You
deck
catch
works.
up.
Yeah, that deck works with like no draw, no nothing. You just play tempo cards and you just get ahead and stay ahead, right? That's how that deck works. So
Yeah.
you don't put anything like this ever into a deck like that.
Now,
It's almost effectively an 8-mana 7/7.
right. Now,
Which
I want to
works
pitch
thing
you
to
guys
work on.
something here, just to see what you think. So, again, we know Lotheb is going away, right? And we also know that there's no real card that kind of interacts, blocks spells, we'll kind of get this to maybe in our email coming up from Spider Guy, but like, what if the scenario happens where there is some sort of minion that hits the board that says, hey, if your opponent or you cast spells similar to the Trogs, if spells hit the board, something's going to take damage. So you give them
Like
Mukla.
Flamewaker?
You play Mukla and kind of like an inverse Flamewaker.
Oh, okay.
Or
Interesting.
even...
But then you want old school Mukla one.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Right?
Because you give bananas
Yeah.
to your opponent.
Yeah.
You better move
I
in
don't know.
that
I don't see a
position.
way this card is ever good. I think this is just a fun card, and they come out and said that bad cards are supposed to exist, and I think this is just one of them.
This is one of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, here, this is what I thought. It's a beast, so you can get it out of Infest. You can get it from Ram Wrangler.
And you're
It'll
not
happen.
totally
That's the
upset.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, this is fine for get out of a Ram
Sometimes-
Wrangler.
Sometimes, but that's how it'll be seen. And maybe there's going to be some brawl in the future where this is going to be really good in that brawl.
Yeah, there you
But
go.
As far as like standard play, I don't know.
Yeah, it could be
Mhm.
balancing, Ram Wrangler cards or random effects. Try to do that, and they also have to continually some legendaries that potentially are bad because Starseeker forever a cool thing that people wanted to play.
That's true. This will happen in Elise decks all the time. You'll be like, okay, well, but at that point it'll be fine, I think, because
Yeah.
a lot of times you can only play one legendary a turn, right?
So the buff.
And this will be
is
something
actually
you
not
can
bad.
fit in with some 4-mana legendary
Yeah.
or something like that, right? And still play.
It'll be
it.
better
It'll
to
fine
get out
with
of
that.
Elise than put
Or
in a
you
deck.
You get this along with one of the Bane sisters. Boom.
Ooh,
You win.
Ooh, there you go.
Hello.
Yep.
Not bad.
Sister deck. What?
Okay, but on
Yeah, let's do the next one.
Shadow Word Horror. Spell 4 mana, destroy all minions with 2 or less attack.
Ooh.
Why do they have to give the coolest
And that
card art
can
to
also
bad
be
cards?
your own minions as well. As I'm reading this, I'm realizing all minions, so you could destroy your own.
Which, to be real, you got your Northshire Cleric on board. That's
Kind of what I was thinking. There it goes. Or your Lightwell.
so it's like a super buffed Shadow Word, but it also affects your minions. I think we
And
can
it's
just
only
simply
2 or
say-
less, right? It's not
Yeah, not
3.
even 3 or
Right.
less.
Like,
3
how
or
would
less is a
you feel
huge
about it if
difference.
it was 3 or less attack?
That would be
I would feel better about it if it was attack.
and still 4 mana. Yeah. I just don't know where this is going to fit, and I think we all agree that Priest has way better AOE effects as
Yeah.
it is. So we don't know.
Excavated Evil is a thing, and this is not a thing. I don't think. I don't see how this will. It's funny too because I was thinking about this, and some of the best targets for this are going away because Deathlord won't be a card anymore in Standard, and I'm just trying to figure out what is played in the current meta, or So unless you're trying to get rid of a whole bunch of tokens, which you still do with Excavated Evil and Holy Nova, so
this isn't going to work.
Well,
That's
I'm
all.
thinking it's possible they're still thinking of Wild. Like with these cards, we have to kind of go. They're still thinking that
absolutely.
Wild still
Sure.
some tools in their toolbox. So it's possible that this is meant for them.
Yeah.
But I guess
with
is
that.
Light Bomb. What set was Light Bomb in? The
GVG.
GVG or
Yeah, Light Bomb's going away.
okay, Light Bomb's going
Light
away.
Bomb's
then-
GV.
Yeah, Priest needs another AOE, but this isn't it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
The Priest is never losing Circle Akanai. So
Yeah, that's true.
Hmm.
I
That'll
think
be good.
Priest
Never
just
mind.
has enough AOE
Yeah,
right now.
probably.
I don't feel like I put this in any deck because I'm just asking too much of the game. I'm asking too much of the board and the situation to make this at all playable.
So
Yeah.
can we move this into like maybe an arena discussion just real fast? Like I think this is actually an okay pick for arena. In some stretches.
Well, the
Because
problem in the
once you
arena is
reset-
that you have to kill at least 2 things with it for this to be worth it, I think. And again, you're like hoping that ever happens, that situation ever arises.
If you're going up
And-
against a paladin who is pumping out his hero power every turn,
Well, so that's one situation, but even then, you're not killing cards when you're killing 1/1s. You're killing.
The problem
Right.
is it's not a tempo
Hero
card,
cards.
right? And you're
Yeah.
not really getting a whole lot of value out of it. You're still giving your
Yeah.
opponent the initiative. So I can see, yeah, that's
And you're spending 4 mana to do it.
Right. All right, let's go to the next card.
Mark of Yasharaj, right? That's how we're saying it?
Yasharaj.
That's
Yes.
incorrectly correct. It's a druid common spell. It's 2 mana. You give a minion +2/+2, and if it's a beast, you can draw a card as well. So the quickest thing to compare it to is obviously Mark of the Wild. So instead of taunt, you've got a possible card draw, which, in my opinion, since you're going to put this in a deck in a beast druid, that's pretty good.
Yeah,
I like this card a lot.
This is in Beast Druid. This is the thing. The weird thing about Beast Druid though is we're losing Druid of the Fang. So
bummer.
something else needs to
The
happen
snake
too.
one?
The snake one that becomes a 7/7. If you have a beast, that's going away,
Yeah.
which makes Beast Druid like, here's a tool. Well, we take away another tool. So I don't. Maybe it's a wild deck, but yeah, they're trying so hard to make Beast Druid a thing. They're just not getting there.
Yeah, the one thing that I also really wish that Blizzard would pay attention to, since they're going to make this, is, well, maybe not pay attention to, maybe just change, is like the Knight of the Wild still will not proc unless, or I'm sorry, will not reduce his cost unless he's in your hand. Like, if that card would be something that would reduce the cost of his deck, that would be just awesome, because you would play way more beasts, value out of it, and then losing Druid of the Fang is not as big of a hit.
Well, I wonder if they're worried about doing that, if that would be overpowered, and I don't know, because
that's
I think, because people talk about how Frost Giant goes down when you use your hero power, but you're also using your hero power rather than play something out of your hand, right? Which might be anti-tempo every turn, and you're trying to do that just to get this thing out. Whereas playing a beast every turn when your deck is full of beasts anyway is just good all the time, and then suddenly you get a free 6/6 down the line. That seems like they might be worried about how broken that possibly could be. I think that's why it works the way it does. But again, it's like they have all these tools for Beast Druid, and it just doesn't add up to enough synergy to make it a good deck.
Yeah, and especially if lore depends, like, it depends again if lore gets nerfed again, maybe draws 1 card or draws less than 2 cards when it's played, or it's a higher mana cost or whatever. This card is a cycle, and like Druid really struggles with cycle, especially if lore goes away or something like that.
It'll actually make me more interested to play the beast mechanics and stuff in Wild, that actually utilize everything that's come out. Malorn's also going away too, I think. So be able to just try him out and see what could have been with Druid of the Fang.
Is
I guess.
Malorn going away?
That GVG?
Yeah,
I think Malorn is GVG. Yeah.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Okay,
but here's turn 1. This card turn 2. Bam.
That's crazy.
Wrath, and then you can Wrath it.
2.
Draw a card again.
Oh my!
Like a 9/2 on turn 3.
All right, let's talk dragons.
That is crazy.
Scaled Nightmare.
Scale Nightmare, neutral epic, 6 mana, 2/8. At the start of your turn, and this is a dragon, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. At the start of your turn, double this minion's attack. So this card is actually has some crazy potential.
But
We figured it was
Cabal
corrupted Azure Drake, maybe. What the picture kind of looked like.
Well, okay, so here's how you play this card. Put it in a rogue deck, and then you can seal it.
That's better.
And then you like buff its attack with cold bloods and stuff. And like the turn you play it, you can play it, cold blood it. It's a 6/8. Then you can seal it, and then the next turn, it's a 12/8.
Yeah, that's an 8 mana combo.
The only other thought I had was in Dragon Priest, obviously. You play this and throw in an Inner Fire, maybe, and then you got an 8/8, 16/8 the next turn if it lives.
The thing is that it's the if it lives part, which is going to be this card's biggest drawback, right? So as soon as it hits the board, it's going to be a target.
Yeah.
And it's only going to fight back for 2 damage while it's on the board, right? The turn you play it. So
it kind of has taunts built into it.
People will be running stuff into it and not losing their minions that very turn. So unless you do some trickery, think like Gazrilla hasn't ever been good, right? Because you play it and then you hope it lives.
Yeah.
And that's what this card also is doing. So a card that you hope it lives to get the value is always kind of an iffy proposition.
It's also kind of against what Dragon Priest tries to do, right? They give you like huge minions that kind of cheat, like you were saying earlier, Dills. They kind of cheat the curve by giving you the speed buff by giving you a condition.
They're stronger than they should be for their cost, right?
Right. Mm-hmm. And this card is just weaker than it should be for the cost because it's balanced. Imagine that.
The only decks that this does supplement into are Dragon Priest, Dragon Paladin, if that's a thing, and I just don't see how it adds something to those decks. It's just an interesting effect that we want to make work, which usually doesn't result in a playable card.
Well, with Rogue, I mean, maybe they think that it's tricky enough to get that game-breaking play that it'll be hard enough to have all those cards together that it's safe right now, or there's going to be a solution introduced later in the coming weeks.
Well, Broad has said that he doesn't like Master of Disguise because it limits their design, so we might see a Master of Disguise change.
Yeah.
And I think the change is be to make it last one turn, right? So, but Rogue is now getting a new way to conceal things, right? With Zeril.
Zeril,
so,
Oh, that's right.
But that's still
I
one
see
turn, isn't it?
What's that?
That's still one turn as well.
That's one turn, yeah.
Yeah.
But if any conceal mechanic in the game is only one turn, I think then it becomes more safe. The fact that Master of Disguise, you could just let this thing sit there and just gain and gain and gain and then one shot. That's the scary part of it, right? So, you know, like Shitanax Ramus doesn't quite do that because it doesn't grow exponentially. This grows like
this
if
is an
it lives
exponential
one
grow.
turn, it's 4, and then it lives another, then it's 8, and then it's 16, and then it's 32. You know what I mean? So
I do think that this could be really, really interesting if it was less mana with the same effect and maybe a weaker body. Especially in Priest with tools like just the buffing mechanics of Velen's Chosen.
Yeah, they got Velens, they got all sorts.
Yeah,
of
exactly. Like
although Velens is going away too in standard,
right?
Velen is
But
going
you gotta Velen's going away. Plus,
you guys changing your name?
No, the show will stay standard relevant as the card passes away.
That's kind
it's still there and wild.
Yep, exactly.
Velen's
you guys are just
Chosen
a
is a
wild podcast
people.
at that point.
That's
Dang
right.
it. All right. With that being said, let's move on. Our next card.
Steward of Darkshire, Paladin, rare, 3 mana for a 3/3. Whenever you mana one minion, give it Divine Shield. Okay, so this works with Twilight Drake. This works off the hero power, which I think is really great. Noble Sack. That's interesting. I did not know that.
Yep.
Does not
It's a
work
one- it's a
with
2/1.
cards that you turn into a 1 health minion.
Correct.
They have to come out as a 1.
Yeah, it has to be on the card that it's or 1 mana. So redemption will work if it's a 1-cost minion. So if you've got redemption and Noble Sack when it's brought up, it'll have
Noble
the divine
Sack is
shield.
gonna live.
Yeah, but Noble Sack won't die.
Oh,
it won't
I
come back,
live!
right?
That's awesome. Happy for Noble Sack.
It's a weird like hobgoblin-ish effect that could be crazy. Like the first thing I saw people talking about was like, oh, aggro pally's already so viable. This is gonna just give all those leper gnomes divine shield. I don't know in that kind of deck. I think it'll open up some options for some interesting other things.
Well,
What is that spell that we gave us all the 1/1s?
Well, there's 5/1/1s, yeah. So
Stand against darkness, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a thing. It's a combo you can do. You could do this on turn. Like I was talking about this, if you were to get 1 tick of Thaurissan on, and this is a wild play because Quartermaster is going into wild, but if you get 1 tick on these cards, you could play this into Standing Against Darkness into Quartermaster and get a bunch of 3/3s with Divine Shields. So I mean I think that's going to happen in wild. I think people are going to play that deck. But as far as standard goes, I don't think this card is broken because it's 3/3 for 3 and it's going to die pretty easily, right? So you'll most likely this will live in like brand territory where you get 1 good thing off of it and then it dies and then it's fine. But Dragon Paladin will probably play this with Twilight Drakes, right?
That's what I was going to get at. It's like this is not a design card for the archetypes that people are looking out over. The card is anti-aggro. It's not meant for making aggro minions more aggressive or more sticky. Like you don't play this on turn 3. That's my biggest thing. You don't play this card on turn 3. You play it maybe behind a taunt on turn 3. Very rare.
That'll be hard.
So this is an interesting card. I will say that the one thing about the card that I'm most excited about is the fact that this isn't the only card that says, quote, whenever you summon something as opposed to whenever you play. So I really like this summon mechanic because now we're starting to move into territory where cards that pop out of your deck get the thing, potentially, like, because it could hit that or it could hit something out of your hero power like this one. There's a Drama card we'll review here in a second. So I love that mechanic. whenever you quote unquote summon something affected deck.
Mhm.
Really, really cool.
Just gives it a better chance of hitting.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it has 2 conditions. So you have to summon it and it has to have 1 health, right? So this card isn't scary to me. This card is totally fine, I think. Night Niggler does summon. So it doesn't matter how the card gets onto your side of the board, it procs the knife juggler. Right?
Currently.
This card, side of your board and has to be 1 health. That's 2 things it's asking, so it's fine.
What should scare you is the Magma Rager deck. Take full advantage of this, because that's going to be OP.
And
I
the
don't know,
Ice
man.
Rager.
I don't know.
Super Scarlet
That's
Hero.
the Ice Rager's worse. You
Yeah.
can't put that in.
If you're playing that deck, I'll play you all day, every day. I think I'll win most of the games.
All right, we got to move, guys. Let's go to the next one.
That's fun.
Got the Scarum Cultist? Or is it Scarum? Or...
I don't know how to say this
I like
card.
Scarum.
Scarum work.
Scarum!
It's a scared deck or something. It's a neutral rare 6 mana, 7/6 minion. Battlecry, give your Cthulhu +2/+2 wherever it is. So we're seeing this as a standard thing that these Cthulhu buffs minions have pretty vanilla stats and are fine because, I mean, really, you can just look at how we talked about the other Cthulhu cards. This is kind of the same thing. It's just a bigger minion.
Yep. Cthulhu decks, I think, are starting to set up to really boring to play, in my opinion. Like, the more I look at this stuff, I'm like, okay, play it, off my Cthulhu, draw my Cthulhu, and then smash your face.
Yeah.
Although there is another card that's later that we're going to talk about that gives you some other options around Cthulhu. But I'm looking at this, I'm going, every single card that comes out, I'm going, I guess
Yeah.
I play on curve linearly down the entire game,
Yeah.
and then I draw Cthulhu.
That's
and
kind
then
of
I
the
win if
general
I
feel,
do.
right? Like,
I think it's possible on purpose for newer players, people getting into the game. They're doing
It's
so
given
much
everybody for free,
promotion
right?
around Old Gods. Yeah. And the fact that you get him for free, I think this promotion is to draw in all these new players don't know that much about the game. And this is a really simple deck that's really easy to figure out and easy to play for it. So it's probably not going to appeal to people who want to do all those neat combos and have the really mind-bending decks to play, but it has its audience.
yeah, I think the general feel when you look at, like Dills was saying, when you look at stuff, like, your minions, when you play them, will be vanilla, and in the end game, on turn 10, if you're not dead yet, you might win.
Yeah. And then
You
2020 Cthulhu, bang, yay! So, like, I think you're right, though. I think this is, they're aiming at newer players, and it gives them a deck to build besides that Divine Favor, Inner Fire, Priest deck that everybody seems to build, or Divine Spirit. Just like everyone's first deck.
Right.
It's, if you go down and play it like rank 25, that's what's happening.
Sometimes
Yeah. The Confused deck was at least like, oh, this is kind of an interesting take on that. But that deck, it's still to this day on my EU rank 25.
That deck was like the only reason you could beat a couple of the heroic bosses in like
Yeah.
Nax.
Yeah.
It
But
was
you
like
know what it
no
is? It's
other
when
way.
a new player comes in, they look at that and they go, oh my god, double my attack and then make my attack equal to my health? That's so good. And then everybody makes the deck and then they realize, everyone just keeps running into my minions and they keep dying.
Yeah.
that all about.
All right, let's move on.
Tauntus.
Yep. The next one, Kabbalist Tomb or Kabbalist, I think it's Kabbalists, is a mage epic card. It's a 5-mana spell. All right.
I like it.
I love this card. This card is not good
But it's
in
cool.
most mage decks. But Reno mage decks and like grindery mage decks, hell yeah. It's perfect.
I like the art on this card a lot.
It'll be cool if like the tome opens as you play it or something like that.
Oh, that would be so
Craigasm.
neat.
I-
The animation opening and the spell coming at you. That would be
Like,
Really, it's,
shuffle 'em.
this card's almost a marriage of Nourish and Unstable Portal.
Yeah.
Because you're adding these random cards and you hope that they're good. They probably will be good because spells are just generally above average. And especially if it's a Reno or a Grinder, you're going to get some really good value off of it. Maybe proc off of something else and get value.
What don't you want to get as far as mage spells are concerned?
Spellbender?
Secrets.
Maybe a couple
Couple
of the
secrets.
secrets. Yeah,
Yeah.
but that.
than
Everything
that,
does something.
But even that, it was free. And if you're grinder, you're really getting a ton of value out of every single card you
although
play.
grinder mages lose one card, the Echo.
Duplicate
They're
and
losing
Echo.
Echo, which
Echo
was a big
that's
deal for them.
you could get Pyroblast.
I think I told you guys in the Discord server that I found out you can echo Reno, and I cried off to sleep that night after.
That's really tough.
That was
That would give me nightmares for a
stupid.
few weeks. Yeah.
Well, Gold Warlock, which was my Reno deck of choice. Now I'll play Reno Mage, and I'll have this card, and it'll be sweet. And sometimes you'll play Kabbalah's Tomb, and you'll get another Kabbalah's Tomb. And
Hey!
yeah,
Oh my God.
infinite value.
Hilarious.
It'll be awesome. Yep.
All right, let's move on. I don't have anything else to say.
Ancient Harbinger. So this is we have been looking for. Honestly, I thought it was going to be a kind of mechanic like that minion that summons Rag. I thought it was going to be like a death rattle minion, and then when it dies, put Cthulhu into your hand or that. But we'll read it. Ancient Harbinger, neutral epic 6 mana 4/6. At the start of your turn, put a 10 cost minion from your deck into your hand. So this is how we make sure the old gods get into our hand before the end of the game.
And it's a random minion, just to clarify, also.
Yeah, but you probably know specifically what minion you're going for.
Yeah, one or two probably no
You
more
have
than
one
that.
god or whatever, or maybe you're greedy enough to play two, but I
Or a
doubt
sea
it.
giant, or maybe.
Yeah.
Sea Giant or Deathwing.
But would you put that in your deck if you were making an old god deck?
I don't know.
This card?
No, I mean the other 10.
Oh, the other ones.
Probably only
No.
would put
You
one.
want specifically that one old god, right?
Right.
I think if you play an old god deck, you play this card. Maybe not,
Yeah.
but this essentially doubles your chance to get your specific old god.
I really
You kind of have to, because that's your win condition.
Yeah, if that's how I'm winning,
Yeah.
if I'm winning playing my old god, I want to give myself more chances to get my old god, and so I think this goes in.
Yeah, I do really like this effect, and I think that it's balanced because they're giving you, the good body for a decent mana cost with a super powerful effect. And then they're gatekeepering people by making it epic with that effect, right? Specific scenarios, specific card, epic.
The hard thing is the start of your next turn is going to be tough
It's a
because
long
this is
time.
going to
It
be
has to
another
live.
taunt minion.
Yeah, but this is health. It's gonna have to get like fireballed or something like that, or a minion has to run into it. So has a decent chance of living.
Sure.
Yeah, I think we
it's
do
good
need
that
this.
it exists.
Yeah, exactly,
And its
Andrew.
attack isn't completely useless. 4 is okay.
And
It'll
6
kill a
health
lot
is
of things.
perfect. Gotta be at least. All right.
And I have a second one, hopefully. And
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. I think it's necessary if you're building decks around these old guys.
Now,
Something like this.
Dills, what do you think about playing this card with Paladin, and then maybe you drop 2 redemptions?
Oh god, that's pretty good.
Then you get it.
But also, you can just play this and then give it divine shield and stuff too. They got lots of ways.
Fair enough. They could just Kings it on turn 10, and then they can use 10 mana turn to get a 10 mana card.
Well, I mean, Argent Protector, play a 2/2, put a shield on it. You can also put a shield.
Seal of Champions.
Conceal it. Yeah,
Perfect.
lots of classes have ways to protect this. To to stick, but think about what Shaman could do. The thing where when it dies, it comes back.
Reincarnate.
There's lots of.
That's Nax card, actually.
Oh, is it really? Oh, what's the other one? No, Ancestral Spirit isn't an axe card. Isn't that a classic card? The one where it kills it and then brings it back. That's a DVG card, isn't it? I don't know. I don't play it.
Oh,
This
you know
minion
what?
death
You're
rattle
right.
summon.
I got those. I always get those 2 cards
Spirit.
confused.
That's a classic card.
Yeah.
Is it Death Rattle?
Yeah, you're right. I always got those 2
So
confused.
why would you want to kill it and bring it back?
No. That gives it Death Rattle as it comes back again.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the card we're
Yeah,
getting.
not reincarnation. That was the
We're
next.
just trying to figure out how to guarantee or
I think
make it.
one turn,
Yeah, exactly. Which, on that note, I want to propose a new mechanic real fast. And this would be a super powerful mechanic, so I'm not unaware of that. I just want to ask if this is possible in any way to balance and make work. So what if there was some kind of either minion or spell or something like that that actually lets you skip your opponent's turn and lets you go straight into your next turn?
Definitely have cards like that in Magic.
Yeah, Magic. In fact, Magic, I could take my opponent's turn, and then it goes back to my turn, which is
You take all their
disgusting.
cards and play as if you were them.
Yeah,
That's
literally.
not a fun card or something.
It's
No,
it's
that's-
one card. It costs like 8 mana or something like that. It's
I think
really
if-
difficult to play.
If that were to be a Hearthstone card to skip, I think it should be at least 8 to 10 mana, and it should. Oh,
Well, here's the way it could be balanced. Is it costs essentially like 10 mana, and it doesn't really do anything to the board.
right.
It puts a really really weak minion or something on the. But that is basically just saying like, with the minions I have on the board, if I can hit with them twice, I'll win. That kind of thing. So,
Yeah. I just like this
I-
for like a stall deck. I'm thinking 8 mana. You drop this, you play Doomsayer, something like that.
They have to choose one or the other.
But essentially, that's like a
Because they
10
don't get
mana Twisting Nether. So it's
well,
like,
if it
well, why
skips
would
to
I
the
do
next
that?
turn, then it clear board no matter what with there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only problem is that they've definitely gotten rid of cards and decks that don't let you play. And this would deliberately
it's
be
true.
not letting you play.
Yeah,
So-
after the nerf to
Patron.
mind control, I think they don't want to do any card that's not fun, and it's not fun to have your turn taken from you.
That's totally
Yeah.
fair.
Right.
That feels bad, man. Right?
Yeah, it would feel really bad.
Speaking of things not fun.
Magic just doesn't care. Magic does everything.
Yeah.
Magic does
Yeah.
everything
Just do what
and
they
everything
want,
and
yeah.
all the stuff, and that's why when you play, I don't know if you guys play a lot of like Commander and stuff. When you play Commander, people have disgustingly broken
Yeah,
decks.
they do.
And you're playing against them, and you're just like, what did you just do? Summon 50 things all at once and smash you in the face? That's legal? And they're like, oh yeah, because this does that, and then this does that, and I have infinite mana, so I can do this. And you're like, okay.
That's kind of how Black plays
cool,
with the
man. That was
Commander.
fun.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, so speaking of really broken things, let's talk about something that's not so broken and is still kind of scary. Yasharaj.
So he's a neutral legendary, 10 mana, and like we knew. He's 10 at health, and his text reads, at the end of your turn, put a minion from your deck into the battlefield. So slip it right on in there. It's almost like a Death Lord that you want to happen.
Huh.
And
Yeah, I like it. It's at the end of your turn, not like at the beginning of your next turn or anything like that. So that's good because obviously a 10 for 10/10, you're not going to be able to do anything else on your turn.
it's almost like an Aviana
It's a little underwhelming though. It's just
No,
kind of
it's like variant,
variant.
right? It's
yeah.
or variant. Yeah, that's fair.
but it doesn't draw you 3 cards, and it plays 1 minion, and you don't get the battle cry. So then what minions you can put in your deck? I don't think this is a good card. I think it's a bad card.
Yeah.
It's definitely
Yeah.
the least underwhelming of gods that we know. I mean, you
Yeah.
know, getting all of your death rattles back, that's crazy if you've had some death rattles on the board. But this is just kind of like, oh,
That's nice.
Another thing to
Deathwing
note
out
about
without
this
his
card.
battle cry.
That?
yeah.
Deathwing out without his cry.
Oh,
Okay. That might happen sometimes.
But it
But-
better come out from Yasharaj. And
Here's what this is. Immediately might think, oh, I put Ysera and Ragnaros and all this stuff in there. But the problem card is at the turn, so cards that also have end of your turn effects don't actually go off. Because the
Exactly.
end of your turn already happened.
Exactly.
So Rag will come out and not do anything. Ysera will come out and not give you a dream
Because
card.
technically, the end of turn will trigger.
That's good to
This
know.
effect will trigger, and then all of the minions will be pulled out, and it's your opponent's turn.
Yeah, but you don't get 2 end of your turn.
Exactly. It's kind of like a phase, or however the stack
Yeah.
works in. So
I'm just
if your
kind of
Argent
wondering
Squire
if it's
comes out-
possible because once you get to turn 10, like, you're kind of hoping that sort of weeded through your deck a bit, so you might have a couple big heavy minions in hand.
just
this
want
is
something really
value.
good.
Yeah,
And this
it's
is
great if you
not
get like a
guaranteed.
Tyrion out of it, for sure.
Yeah.
It's great if you get some really strong standalone minion out of it, but to get that, you kind of need to also build that doesn't have a bunch of little guys, and then you probably fall way behind. I could see this being in like, here's how you do it. You play a shaman deck that plays nothing but the removal cards, and then like joust mechanics and things like that. And your only minions are like your massive dudes. So you got like your Malagos or something. And then they're like, oh, he's got Malagos and a 10-10. I can't kill both of them. I have to figure out which one I want to kill and then spend a bunch of resources killing it. And then you murder them the next turn. Right? So I think there's a way to make this work. I just don't think it's that great. It's fine.
Yeah. So control-y deck.
Yeah. It's just right? It's kind of boring.
It's alright.
I feel kind of underwhelmed by it too. There might be new cards that come out that make this more interesting, but at the moment it's kind of like,
Probably not.
this is a huge old god, and his ability isn't that.
Can't really supplement a 10 mana card either because it's a 10 mana card. You know, it's just going to do one thing. It's
Yeah.
not a battle cry that you can buff from Bran. It's not a death
Yeah.
rattle you can buff by Baron or anything.
I don't
like
think
that.
we need to
That's true.
beat this card in the ground anymore. Let's go to the next one.
Elfin
Few
Inquisitor.
Murlocs.
This is a paladin epic, 1 mana, 1 battle cry. Your hero becomes summon 1/1 Murloc. Well,
I like it.
Cool.
It's like 1/1s anyway as your paladin, right? And now you just have Murloc synergy.
yeah.
It kinda depends on-
when you're losing old Murloc standard. The Anyfin deck isn't actually like an OTK deck anymore. So yeah, now the Anyfin deck is bring back a bunch of Murlocs and they all have.
But
buffs
you
and
don't
stuff.
even want those. You don't want those 1/1s back from Anyfin. So it wants it down.
I know.
You have to have a different kind of Murloc deck, which I don't
Yeah.
know is going to be as effective, but it's interesting at least.
I think we need more
You
cards
have
like
to
War
have, like,
Leader.
And Murloc synergy, and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need more War Leader-esque cards. So let's go ahead and move on. I like this on turn 1, though. It's a really, really stinking powerful body for 1/3.
Sure.
So that's cool. All right. Next card.
Thing from below. Shaman rare, 6 mana for a 5/5 taunt. Cost 1 less for each totem you've summoned this game.
Drop the mic.
So it
This is
works
cool.
with your hero power. It works with Totem Golem, Totemic Battle Cry. It works when it's in your deck. So better than Knight of the Wild. And also for Totem Summon from Highlighted Shredder. That's
It's got that summoned, where
Vortex.
it was the summon just gets out there.
yeah.
So however
where
totem
the
gets on
totems
your
come
side.
from.
So when I first saw this card, I immediately thought, okay, hero power on turn 2, Tuskar on turn 3. Then this is a 4 mana 5/5, which is just better than the Yeti.
And it has
And I had
taunt.
totally forgotten which is not super valuable, but it's something on top of that. So in that scenario, that's not bad.
Also, if you have only played one totem, whether that be Totem Golem or a Tuskar or a Hero Power by turn 6, you can click your Hero Power and then play this. Because it'll be 4 mana by then.
Yeah,
There you go.
totally.
So,
This is going to be a good card, and Totem Shaman will be a thing again, which is good because every time you see Shaman now, it's smash you in the face Shaman. So
yeah.
I want to see other
Yes.
kinds of Shaman.
Yep, I agree.
Here's my only problem. I don't know if you guys follow me on this, but do you remember when Sonic games were trying to work in 3 dimensions? And every time they announced a Sonic game and they showed a trailer, it was like, this is going to be the one that actually works. And then a day into it, everyone said, this is literally the worst game ever. And that's how I feel like Shaman is with every single set. We say, this is what's going to make Totem Shaman a thing. This is what's going to bring it. And it just never happens. So I am very skeptical. I'm just going to say that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
But I'm hopeful.
It's usually like 1 or 2 tools that they're missing, though, and this could be the one.
Yeah, but the crazy
But, I mean,
thing
they're losing
is,
Crackle, right? So
yeah.
that's a
true.
big part of that face Shaman deck.
But Shaman has been getting to be a really high legend pick deck that people are playing on ladder these days. That's interesting. Like, they're playing
I
that
think they're
mid-range
just
Shaman.
bored.
Well,
Yeah, I know.
it tends to play better against Zoo, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shaman is just a fun class and it has a lot of fun things in it. So I'm really excited for introduced into the meta, and I really do. I hope it works. This is hopeful. But
I like the card a lot, by the way. We'll go to the next and last card here.
And this is my card that got announced. It just got announced today. So Master of Evolution is a Shaman rare. The 4 mana and the battle cry is transform a friendly minion into a random one that costs 1 mana more. So it's effectively got something that's a cross between Recombobulator and Thorson at the same time. It's
I
cool.
like it.
This is
This
cool.
card's
It's a
badass.
fun mechanic.
I mean, what shaman deck do you not play this in besides like face with lots of spells?
I mean, yeah, this is basically like a tempo shaman will play this. A mid-range shaman will play this. It's it's Yeti stats that does something else. And right now, like, if you get Yeti stats, you're not supposed to get anything else, right? But apparently now you do. So
If your class is
It's
bad
a
enough, you
good
do.
effect. It's not just saying.
yeah. Well, you could turn totems into 3-mana minions.
Into Magma Ragers.
I thought the totems were
That's
1
fine.
mana, Dills,
Right?
even though they
the
cost
totem
2 mana.
actually counts as 1 mana when it's on the board, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. Oh, okay, you turn them into 2-mana minions. Fine.
You might
Whatever.
get a
That's
mini
still-
bot.
Which the interesting thing is that with like a totem shaman, you effectively want to have a lot of totems on board. So I don't know that you want this card in.
Mm.
We'll
no,
see.
it just goes
It'll
in
be
like
fun.
a mid-range shaman is what it goes
Yeah.
into, I think.
Yeah.
Because
You
again,
think
like
about-
it's pointed out here, you can't use it on a 10 minion because it won't do anything. And I don't know what actually happens. Do you guys know? Does it just like fizzle?
It just doesn't
Or-
trigger.
Just doesn't trigger?
Mhm.
Okay.
Think about Fire Elemental. Get that 3 damage, and then you buff it up to a 7 mana minion and turn 10. I guess that's crazy. You get a
Pretty-
War Golem.
Problem with that
Yeah.
is like you might get Illidan.
Or you and it's a 5/5. Damn it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could
Yeah,
get Illidan
that's
and be
true.
like, well,
You
crap.
just don't
you-
know what you're getting.
Are you going to get class cards? I guess it is completely random. So it could
That's
be
random.
Yeah.
It's anything that costs that amount. Yeah.
It's a risk reward kind of thing where you don't know what you're going to get. It could be game breaking, and it could be.
Yep. Well, guys, we are
If you
running.
attack something and then you do this, you heal it back up. I don't know.
Yeah, there you go.
It's very rare that this won't be good.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a rare card, which means for you budget-friendly people, this is great.
Cheap.
This is cheap card.
Yeah.
It'll be good if you want to play Shaman. All right, so we actually,
Oh, Shaman got rare, so that's really
Yeah.
exciting too.
yeah.
Within reach.
So the good news is this is the end of the card section. The bad news is we were gonna surprise you guys by doing some 3 really cool card reviews for April Fool's cards, but we're running out of time very quickly. So what we'll do
Go find them on
instead
your-
is we're gonna put them in the show notes as Easter eggs for you guys to go help hunt if you haven't already seen them. So this next section, we're just gonna quickly pass it off to Eve to thank our patrons.
We got 2 new patron supporters this week.
Heyo.
Roven B and Ricardo C. Thank you so much for supporting the show.
Thank you guys. It means so much that you give anything to a podcast that does it for free already. That's saying something cool.
It's always mind blowing to me that people will actually support us with their hard earned cash. Just amazing. Thank you so much. We also have 1 iTunes review from the United States, Madison. Correct attitude. My favorite thing about Phelan's show is that the hosts sometimes appear to secretly hate the game, which reflects my love-hate relationship with the latter, fun sapping meta, and the Paladin card pool. It's honestly a great show for Hearthstone players at any level, and it features practical advice and views in every episode. Well, thank you very much for that. I know we all have our struggle bus moments. We have
The
talked.
truth is, everyone does.
Yeah.
Yes. And we want you to be able to identify with that. Like, we struggle on ladder, you struggle on ladder, so we're feeling each other. We do love Hearthstone, though. Otherwise, we would not make a podcast about it. Spend so much time talking about it and getting passionate about it. So I get what you're saying,
Yeah.
but we love Hearthstone.
But it's still enjoyable to listen to.
All right.
Uh,
Eve's got our last
Skip
section about emails too.
in. We have enough time to go over this?
I think so. We kind of discussed it a little bit earlier, but we'll just address it and then we can move on to close the show. So let's
We've had this one for a while, so thank you, Spider Guy, for being so patient.
Yeah.
Writes in, hey again, guys and gals. Thought experiment for you. Think of a theoretical new ability which works like Taunt, but only for spells. In the same way that Charge feels broken, it's pretty lame to have a mage toss a Pyroblast over a board of taunts. Yes, I feel it. Or have an aggro shaman hit for 10 on turn 6 even if you've cleared all their early aggro. Just like charge can only be handled by placing traps or taunts before, spells can only be prevented by even less. Misdirection, counterspell, spellbender, and Loatheb. And we're losing Loatheb in standard.
Mm-hmm.
This is kind of like a lightning
this.
rod-ish effect. I think that the interesting place that it could happen is if there was like a totem the shaman had that did something like
Grounding
this.
totem.
I know you kind of want it.
That's it's actually a WoW thing.
Oh, is it? Well, then,
Mhm.
yeah, it should. Why not?
Yeah, I'm always wary of cards like this though, because if it's just like, so Loatheb lasts for one turn. If this is just a persistent effect, it really just destroys a lot of things and just
Well,
makes
if
a
it
very
was-
funky thing. So
If it was
would-
a minion, then you could get rid of it, right?
yeah, but again, it's like, when you counter decks like hard like that in that kind of way, like I don't think currently decks that hit your face with spells pretty much only are like a problem.
Right.
It's generally they have to get damage from other sources as well. And even a deck like Freeze Mage, which is a problem for certain archetypes, isn't like a problem
For all of them.
across the board.
Yeah.
Whereas like aggro would be a problem without taunt. I don't think currently spell decks that do damage with spells are a problem across the board like aggro would be
I
with
would
their
agree to that.
leper gnomes and whatnot. So the argument that I could see against something like this is just that if it's a persistent effect, it might be a little OP. And actually, there is kind of a card that does this, right? In Mage, it's the whatchamacallit, armor card or whatever. You only
Animated
take
armor?
one damage.
Yeah, animated armor.
Yeah, Pyroblast my face when I take one damage from it. So,
That's true.
there's something that kind of works this way already. But we've talked about this on the show a bunch. We've had this email. I think we've had this email a lot of times. Like, this is something
Somebody
that-
really wants this.
Yeah, no, I think it's just something that a lot of people have thought of. It's because it is an effect that it's like, oh, this isn't in the game. This is missing.
Yep.
I think it just makes sense since we've got taunt to deal with, big minions, that having something to deal with spells. Okay, yeah. So there could be something, and it could be silence, just like taunt. I think it'd be interesting if there was a minion that said like the next, similar to Spellbender, where the next spell that gets released has to hit this. So it's not just some 0/10 minion that can be buffed like crazy or something and just kill the game's fun.
It's a dangerous effect. I think that's the only thing I would put out about this. It's a dangerous effect because it really just locks down a lot of stuff.
I would agree
so-
with everything you guys were saying. Like, it needs to be the one turn. It's got to be.
Yeah, the one turn thing. I'm sad that
Well, I
Loatheb's
really
going
liked
away because that's a
Loatheb,
really
right?
cool card,
Yeah.
and I want
Loatheb's
stuff like
awesome.
that. This might be a way to have a new Loatheb is, you play this on that turn, all spells must hit this minion, right?
Mhm.
How about 3 mana, 3/3 minion with a battle cry? Your opponent's spells cost 3 more next turn.
Well, yeah, let's just mini
Mini
Loatheb.
Loatheb.
What
right?
about a 4/4 minion? No.
They cost 4 more. Wow, dude.
Well, just the fact that Loatheb was a legendary, so you could only put one of him in your deck, made it not ridiculous. And that you were able to cast him before, like, Flame Strike and before these massive AoEs to kind of protect your board of
Yeah.
minions. Like, he was perfect. I think they should make him a basic card. Like, we're
Or just
ushering
give
him
us
in.
another similar effect. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think Loatheb had a huge place in the game, and I'm sad that it's going away because that card was just so good. Like, there was just times where it's like, there's no way I can win this. Top deck Loatheb. Oh, get wrecked. Such a good moment. And that goes away now. So, yeah.
All right. Well, we thank you guys for sticking around with us so long. I'm gonna close out the show with the outro, so you guys can figure out where you can find us. If you want to get involved in the show, I put links to everything through and through. If you want to find us on media or on the interwebs, anywhere there. The best ways that you guys can get involved with us is tweet at us on Twitter. Especially Dills, he's always active on Twitter all the time and streaming and talking with peeps. He talks with me sometimes, so he'll talk with you.
I talk with whoever's there. Yeah.
And then you can also talk with Andrew and Eve. They're on there all the time as well, especially with all these new cards. Everybody's got to be on Twitter these days. You can hang out with us in Discord. We have like a super active chat for not having very many people in there. They're always chatting it up, so you can find some friends in there and go play Hearthstone with us. You can ask for one of us to hang out with you and maybe coach you through a few plays. I know that one of our listeners, Steve, and I were hanging out. He was just spectating me. I was playing Laughing HS's Freeze Mage on ladder last night because I was goofing around trying to learn it a little bit more. There's a Hearthstone group on Facebook called The Inn that is very gracious to us so that we can post and get a little bit more exposure for the show to help more players. They have a really huge forum for players to go hang out and find more people to form a community around instead of just playing on ladder by yourself. So that being said, you can find even the link to the extended show notes every episode on the website. And Andrew, let's start with you. Where can people find you?
I'm on Twitter at Andrew's Living. I actually got on Twitch today for the first time in a while, so you can find me under the same name there as well. So don't expect any kind of regularity. Just set it to notifications. Every now and then you'll get an email and be like, what? And then you'll forget about it immediately. I've also got some arena tips on YouTube under BinacaFreak. You can have me on BattleNet, Andrew's Live 1973.
All right, Eve.
I'm on Twitter at Finnovar, FHINNOVARR. I'm on Twitch as Evemartyn, and if you want my BattleNet, send me a message, and I will send it to you if you are not an egg.
All right. Dills, where can people find you and all of the lovely things you do?
I'm just going to cut it short. I'm just going to say go to twitter.com/WillieDills. Just at Willie Dills. That's the best place. And from there, you should be able to get links to everything else. There's too many things.
I think I'm going to do the same thing. So you can find me at twitter.com/NotRob. Thank you for joining us with Exodar. Thank you, Willie Dills Gregory, for coming on. It's been amazing.
My pleasure, man.
Thank you.
Fun show.
So we'll see you guys next week. I'm going to play the outro music later today.
Bye.
Not all who wander are lost.
Take this time to consider your past deeds.
Stop asking questions. You had your chance. Did I miss it?